In the early 1900s, the established Scottish engineering firm of Alley and McClellan started developing their first steam-powered wagons. By 1914, these had been well received, and the company looked to move wagon production south to be nearer to their customers, settling on a site on the outskirts of Shrewsbury where they built a dedicated factory and a model village to house the workforce. In the early 1930s, and by then having released 3 models of wagon with steadily improving specifications, sales were dropping off. In spring 1933, a new model was launched, which in many ways represented the pinnacle of road steam development and resulted in a significant departure from the earlier designs. The existing 2-cylinder double-acting engine had been replaced by a lighter-weight, higher-speed design that made extensive use of aluminium alloy and was arranged as a 4-cylinder single-acting pattern that in many ways was closer to a diesel engine than the established style for steam. The 2 heavy roller chains used on the previous wagons to take drive from the engine to the rear wheels were replaced by a cardan shaft to a rear differential, and for the first time, front-wheel brakes were offered as an optional extra. And whilst the already proven boiler was retained for the new model, its position was moved to sit behind the driver, who was in turn moved to the front of the cab to give improved visibility. The boiler was also available with an optional automatic stoker, which would then allow a single driver to run the wagon alone without the need for a separate person to feed the fire. This new model was to be known as the S-Type, following its shaft drive configuration, and went on to be produced in 4, 6 and 8-wheel versions and with a variety of body styles. However, at around this time, Sentinel also started to move towards an internal combustion engine future, and by the end of the 1930s and the outbreak of World War II, the last of the S-Type steamers had left the factory. After the war, in late 1949, the Argentine government looked to place an order for 100 steam wagons. This was largely a political move in the face of a growing fuel crisis to show the population they were doing all they could and were looking to make use of locally available coal supplies. Meanwhile, Sentinel were under pressure from the British government to accept the order if they still wished to continue easily sourcing steel for their usual projects. Rather than just dust off the original S-Type design from a decade or so earlier, what emerged from the factory was, in essence, a new development based on the earlier S-Type model. The chassis was similar to the current range of diesel lorries, but with a few alterations. The wagons had all-round brakes as standard, and rather than being steam-operated, as on the S-Type, were replaced by hydraulic brakes, as fitted to the diesels. The tipping mechanism was also run from hydraulic oil, rather than the pumped water used on the S-Type. The engine, whilst heavily based on the S-Type, still incorporated differences as well. Being for export, the wagons were built as left-hand drive, and the shape of the cab drew influence from both the current style of the diesel lorries and the earlier S-Types to once again produce something unique to the range. Alas, the Argentine order wasn't to be a great success. Although the boiler grates had been modified to better suit the low-quality local coal, Sentinel wagons had always performed best with good quality fuel. Once they arrived in Argentina, the local population were less than enthusiastic about the political motivations behind their arrival, and less than enthusiastic about cooperation with their introduction. The practice of trying to sort the best of the coal for use on the wagons was also soon brought to a halt once the mine management found out about it, and inexperienced drivers over the 300-mile round trip across some of the roughest roads around also led to bad first impressions. By 1955, a railway had been built to transport coal from the mines to their destination, replacing the need for the wagons. And although there is a suggestion some of the wagons from the order remained in use until the end of the decade, they weren't to last, with most being scrapped and only 1 or 2 lingering on out of use. Following much preparatory work, one of those remaining wagons in partially restored condition was exported from Argentina in the summer of 2024 to return back to the British Isles. In early November of that year, and still in partially restored condition, the opportunity was taken to return the wagon back to the original Sentinel Waggon Works factory in Shrewsbury, where family, friends and local enthusiasts were able to see for the first time an example from the final chapter in the Sentinel Steam Wagon story, as the new owners get to grips with the work that lies ahead of them to finish off the restoration to full working order.